Hi, this is Brandon from Watches on You. Today we're taking a look at two fantastic watches. These are the Omega Speedmaster Racing and the Breitling Premier Chronograph. And these are two of my favorite chronographs currently available on the market. And I just wanted to film a video today to highlight the differences between these watches and why you might choose one over the other depending on your priorities in a watch. Now, first, I'm going to start off with the Speedmaster Racing. So this watch has a 44.25 millimeter stainless steel case. I always thought it was funny how Omega specifies 2 decimals after the 44 millimeters in their case, just to kind of illustrate how exact their specifications are. And it's got both brushed and polished surfaces. Now, the bracelet on this watch is the classic kind of Speedmaster bracelet that's currently available on the Moonwatch, and it's extremely comfortable. Getting into the movement, it's got a Omega Caliber 9900 coaxial escapement movement. As you can see, it has this beautiful sunburst finishing on it. It's got a 60-hour power reserve. Additionally, it is available in a variety of dial combinations. You can get on a strap, you can get on a NATO. You can really customize this watch to make it your own, and that's why I think that some people choose this over a Moonwatch, is the fact that, well, not only does it have a coaxial escapement, but also there are a ton of different watches that, again, you can use to make this watch your own, and different kind of combinations, whereas with the Moonwatch, you don't really have that level of customizability, at least in the standard version. So I think that that is a kind of interesting feature of the Speedmaster Racing. Also, orange is my favorite color, so I love how all the different versions of this watch have some element of orange, or at least most of them do. So that's a big perk for me. So getting onto the chronograph, you can see you have a running seconds subdial at 9 o'clock, so seconds are running all the time. Then you have the chronograph hours and minutes. And it's kind of a unique function because normally when you have a chronograph that measures hours and minutes, it's in 2 separate subdials, so then you have 3 subdials. But this watch has both the seconds and the hours, the minutes and the hours for the chronograph in 1 subdial. So it's actually like a normal clock. The hours hand is just behind the minute hand on this one. But it allows the watch to have a kind of greater degree of simplicity on the dial, so I think that that's a very unique feature. Additionally, you have a date at 6 o'clock on this piece, as well as a tachymeter on an outer bezel, just like the standard Moonwatch. So I'll demonstrate the chronograph here. So it's, again, just a standard chronograph. It's not a flyback, and you can reset using the bottom pusher. So I started and stopped with the top pusher, and then reset with the bottom pusher. And then getting into the bracelet a little bit more, you have this micro-adjustable bracelet that is, again, it's extremely comfortable. Omega has some of the best bracelets in the game. I mean, they've been consistently the best since, honestly, the 90s. And the Seamasters that came out at that time had bracelets that, in my opinion, were far ahead of what Rolex had at the time. And were far ahead of, like, for example, this Rolex Submariner's from the early 2000s, and as you can see, it still has this press metal bracelet. And this is my personal watch, so I'm not just... so I actually have a stake in the fact that this bracelet isn't that fantastic, but Omega's really been kind of keeping their game pretty high with their bracelets. Now we'll move on to the Breitling, and I'll do a comparison between the watches, both one-on-one against each other in the end of this video, but I'll go over the features of the watches first. So the Breitling has a 42 millimeter case. It's a little bit smaller than the Omega. It really doesn't wear like it has that much smaller of a case, and I'll do wrist shots at the end of the video. But I think that it is definitely a large watch. I love the dial. This is another watch that you can get a bunch of different dial configurations, depending on if you go for certain special editions or something like that. And I pretty much like all of them. The Norton is one that really resonates with me. I really love how the dial on that watch looks. But this is the standard non-special edition Premier, and I think it looks fantastic. Just that beautiful panda dial, and it's got the classic Breitling logo as opposed to the wings, which I actually prefer. Now, one thing to note about this piece is that on the chronograph minutes subdial, there's no hour hand, and there's no way to indicate the hours at all on this piece. So if you are timing things for hours, that is one thing to note. You're not going to be able to do that with this watch. And again, you have the running seconds at 9 o'clock here. So getting on to, oh, one thing I should mention, there's also a date on this piece at 6 o'clock. I'll demonstrate the chronograph function here. And I started again with the top pusher and then reset with the bottom pusher. This watch is also a column wheel chronograph, so it has that in common with the Omega. But in my opinion, the degree of finishing on the movement isn't as great. It's a little bit more industrial. It's just a personal preference. You have more Côte de Genève, and it doesn't really have that sunburst pattern that's on the Omega. I just really love how Omega finishes their movements, but as you can see, sorry about the focus there. This watch, it does look very, very nice. Again, it's a column wheel chronograph, so you have that advantage. Additionally, the power reserve is actually greater on this watch. It's 70 hours as opposed to 60 hours, so you're getting a little bit extra power reserve. Again, both the watches are automatic, so you won't really be concerned about that, or shouldn't be at least, especially if you have a watch winder, but that is something to note. Getting on to the case finishing, again, you have both brushed and polished surfaces, but you have these really nice lines on either side of the case that I think add a little bit of element. It adds kind of a classic element. It kind of reminds me of like the side of an old diner or something like that. If you've ever seen Mickey's Diner in St. Paul, it kind of looks like the siding of that. And again, it just adds a classic element. Additionally, you have a tachymeter scale, but that's actually inside the dial. It's not on the outer edge, so that's something to note about this piece. I do like the tachymeter scale on the inside. Again, in my opinion, it makes it look a little bit more classic and a little bit older than kind of the 60s design that you see on the Speedmaster. It might be 50s. I might have that fact wrong. But anyways, it looks like kind of I think that probably started in kind of in popularity, at least in the 40s or earlier. So having the tachymeter on the inside is a plus for me. So all in all, these are two fantastic watches that really both of the manufacturers knocked right out of the park. And they are a little bit different. Again, with the Speedmaster, you're getting, I would say, a little bit more of a modern look than the Premier, which has a little bit more of a classic look. But the quality of the finishing is almost identical on each of them. And one thing I didn't talk about in the Premier is the clasp. It's fantastic. Again, this one, it is available on a bracelet. I'm just not looking at that one right now, but the clasp is very, very nice, very usable on this watch as well, so the finishing does extend to the bracelet. But I think that overall, both the watches, again, the finishing is great. With the Omega, you have the benefit of better movement finishing, and overall, I think that it's a little bit heavier of a watch, and the size, that if that is a big deal for you, it is a bigger watch. Furthermore, I think that with the Premier, you're getting a greater power reserve, but a little bit worse finishing on the movement. At least that's a matter of opinion. Again, it's not like they're doing bad finishing. It's just not, they don't have more Côte de Genève or something like that, which could kind of up the look a little bit, in my opinion. But again, you're not getting the, you can't measure hours with the chronograph. But overall, I prefer the look of the Breitling Premier. Just, again, overall. And one thing to note with the Premier, so even though the special editions look good, look fantastic, literally there isn't one I don't like, they tend to put something over the movement on the back of the watch, which obviously no one's going to see when it's on your wrist. But to me, I don't like it when they cover up the movement with something, especially if it still has a clear case back, which they have. So it's just like on top of the glass. If you look up the Breitling for Bentley or something like that, you'll see what I mean, but or our view of that watch. But that's just something I don't like, whereas that's not present on the different versions of the Speedmaster Racing. So that's just something to consider. But again, I think that between the two, I do prefer the Premier. Just the look and that power reserve is a little bit better on the Premier, but overall, again, the finishing is fairly similar. So if you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and share. And before I end the video, I'll do a quick wrist shot. So this is the Speedy. So as you can see, it looks great on my wrist. If you have a really small wrist, you might struggle with this, but I have about a 6.5-inch wrist in circumference, so just for size comparison there. I think it looks great. The thickness is fine. It's not too thick at all. And then I'll move on to the Premier. It's, again, the Speedy's very, very comfortable due to that bracelet. And then on the Premier, this is also very comfortable, especially on the strap. I tend to think straps are a little bit more comfortable than bracelets, not only for the Premier, but for every watch. It's very easy to take on and put back on, or take off and put back on. And again, it looks great. It's, again, 42 millimeters in diameter, so to compare that to my 6.5 inch circumference wrist, I think it looks great. So if you like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and share. And remember, we're at Continental Diamond in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, where the Omega is on sale brand new at a retail price of $8,750, and the Breitling is on sale for $8,400. So they're very, very similar in price. They're very similar watches as far as functionality. But again, I prefer the Premier personally. But again, if you want a more modern look, go with the Speedmaster Racing. You can't go wrong with either of these watches. Thanks for watching. And again, remember to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, hit the notification bell. Otherwise, you're not going to be notified of our latest videos, which we constantly upload. Thanks for watching.